Hey folks, sunny south. Hope everybody's doing real good. It's getting hot outside and we're going to get hot in a skillet. Steak fajitas on the menu this evening. I've got a pound of flank steak here. Typically I use skirt steak, but I couldn't find it. And if this was going to be going out on the grill, we'd be using a wet marinade on this, searing it as is on the grill and then slicing it after the fact. But today we're going to be doing it in the skillet. So we're using a dry seasoning blend here that I've got whooped up. And I'm going to show you how to do that. This is fajita seasoning. It's really good. So we're going to slice this into some pretty thin strips. Get that seasoning on there. Get it in a hot skillet and get it seared off. I've got some sliced onion back here as well as some sliced bell peppers, greens, yellows, and reds. Get that in the skillet. Get them softened up a little bit. And then we're going to whoop up a little bit of a homemade pico here. I've got 2 Roma tomatoes that I've went through and they diced pretty small, about a half of a red onion. We've got 1 jalapeno pepper here that's finely diced. I removed the guts out of that to get rid of some of the heat. About a tablespoon or 2 of cilantro there. It's going to be going in that pico. If cilantro poisons you, just leave it out. We're going to hit it with a little bit of minced garlic, some salt, and some lime juice. Let's get to cooking. Alright folks, let's get our steak seasoning put together here. I'm going to start out with 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of cumin, about a half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of adobo. Get this mixed together. We're going to give it a taste, see if it needs any adjustments. Need a pinch of pepper, I left that out. A little black pepper in here. Pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit more adobo, about another half a teaspoon. And I'm going to put some more chili powder in there. We're going to put about another teaspoon of chili powder. If you don't have adobo, just use plain salt in place of it. Pretty good. Let's get our steak seasoned up. Alright, let's get our flank steak sliced up here. This has been in the freezer about 15 minutes just to firm it up a little bit. Like I said, I typically use skirt steak, but I could not find it, so flank it is. Flank works pretty good. If you can't find that, hanger steak, sirloin, some flat iron works pretty good. And you can see you got these long fibers here, these chains of meat, and you don't want that. We're going to slice this across the grain, but to shorten these up, we're going to go through here and cut this into about thirds. It's personal preference. And then we're just going to go across these grains here, cut these into strips, and the thickness is up to you. I don't like them too thin, don't like them too thick. About right there is perfect. And this thicker portion here, you can even go through here and slice it again. Just like it. And with it being in the freezer there a few minutes, it really makes it a lot easier to cut this up. Alright, there's a steak cut up. Looks pretty good. Pretty nice strips. Let's get it seasoned up. We're going to get a splash or two of olive oil in here. And I dried that cut of steak pretty good before it went into the freezer. We'll try to get as much moisture out of it as you can. But that's also why I put some cornstarch in the seasoning powder. Kind of help with that a little bit. And we're going to go in with our seasoning. Tossed around in there pretty good. A couple of good tablespoons of that seasoning in here. Look pretty good. We're going to put that back in the refrigerator and let all this soak up and get happy while we put this pico together. We're going to get our 2 diced Roma tomatoes in. We'll get us some diced red onion in here. It's about a half of a red onion. I'm not going to put it all in there. That's up to your individual taste. On the ratios, we're going to get some cilantro in. Let's just do about a tablespoon and a half, 2 tablespoons of that. Get about a teaspoon of garlic in. Just a good healthy pinch of salt in here. Get some lime juice squeezed in. Get this all mixed together. I think it needs a little more onion. Left out my jalapeno pepper. Now this is an optional ingredient. If you want a little heat, put it in there. If you don't put it in there. If that cilantro hits you the wrong way, if you're one of them, don't put it in there. It's a real simple pico. Looks good, smells good. Gonna be delicious on these fajitas. We're gonna get that in the refrigerator. We're gonna get to cooking. First thing we're gonna do is get a skillet heated up here pretty good over medium high heat. When it just starts to smoke, we're gonna get some avocado oil in there. You're gonna need a high smoke point oil. Of course, I'm gonna have to get a fan on. We're gonna saute these peppers and onions just so they start to soften a little bit. Then we're going to get them out and get our steak in there and get it seared. Then put the veggies back in there. And once those two come together, we're going to lay some tortillas over here. Heat them up, just get a little bit of color on them. And we're just starting to get some smoke. So we're going to go in with some avocado oil. Get our onions in. And get our bell peppers in. We're going to get some salt on here. Now, since we're cooking over such a high heat, you want to make sure you keep these stirred up pretty good. And just let them steam on themselves and pick up a little bit of color at the same time. We're just trying to soften them a little. If you like your vegetables softer, then cook them a little longer, but I like my fajita vegetables to have just a little bit of bite to them. And these just about done. Starting to soften up, getting a little bit flimsy. Give them another 30 seconds maybe. And we're going to get them out the skillet, get the steak in here. They're looking pretty good. Get them over here in the bowl. Same process. We're going to let that skillet start smoking a little bit, get some oil in it, and we'll drop the steak. Alright, the old skillet's puffing a little smoke. Get some avocado oil in. And drop this steak. And I'm going to cook this in 2 batches because I don't want to overcrowd this and have it a-steaming. It's not going to take very long. We got this steak laid down, and I'm just going to leave it alone till we get some nice caramelization, and then we'll toss it a little bit. Alright, it's been on there about a minute. Go ahead and toss this around. Let this finish cooking. That bat's looking pretty good. Let's get it out of here. Get the rest of this steak in. Same process. We're going to cut the fire back, get all this mixed back together. I'm going to cut the heat plumb off, get our vegetables in here. Looking pretty good. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of this fajita seasoning in here. Get all this mixed together. And the heat is off on this skillet. We're going to get us some tortillas over here on this griddle and get them going. Well, come on now. Yeah, hateful as hell. Tortilla shells look pretty good. Let's get it plated. Alrighty, let's start out with a little sour cream. I'll get that in here, spread out a little bit. Steak and peppers and onions in. And if you notice, the steak and these peppers have got a slight coating of a sauce on there. And that was from adding the fajita seasoning at the end. It's got that cornstarch in there. Get a little pico on. And that's it, folks. Steak fajitas. Homemade pico. Homemade seasoning. Quick, easy, and delish. The only thing left to do before we take a hit is just a little bit of lime juice. Till next time, peace.